Afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This program is being sponsored by the Arlington Democratic Committee because we have a long history of doing good work, and we want to honor those who have helped us become the progressive community that we all love. Our honoree this evening is Sharon Davis. And before we take you on a journey on Sharon's amazing life and accomplishments, I will take a moment, if you don't mind, and do some housekeeping announcements. First, I will just say I'm State Senator Barbara Favola. I represent the 31st District in the Virginia Senate. That includes a large portion of Arlington, some of Fairfax, and some of Loudoun. But I am referred to as the Senator from Arlington. And many of you know me when I first started my political career more than 20 years ago on the Arlington County Board, which I served on for 14 years. So along the way, we've all bonded and have enjoyed many successes that were meaningful to our community. And three amazing organizers and friends of Sharon got together and helped organize this event. I want to take a moment to recognize them. Karen Darner, who we lovingly call Karen, a former delegate from Arlington and a special education teacher for many years, Peace Corps volunteer, all around, wonderful person. Susan Prokop, who I met many years ago, and I consider her to be the political strategist of Arlington. And I met Susan when she was, I think, the campaign manager for Jim Almond, but she's done many things in her career. And Paul Ruiz, who is new to the Arlington community, but I can tell from my brief encounters with Paul, he's also an awesome person and really embodies the democratic values that have, again, made us such a wonderful and compassionate community. These are our three organizers. I'm going to allow each one of them to make a brief statement. And then I would like to remind the audience, we will have a toast to Sharon at the very end of this program. So if you have a moment, you might want to slip away and get something sparkling or whatever you might like to drink. Please mute your mic when you're not speaking out of courtesy to others so we don't have any back noise. That would be great. And we are also joined by Scott McCaffrey today, who is an editor with the Sun Gazette. So I thought that you all would be interested in those announcements. Without further ado, I'm going to turn to Karen to make a brief statement. Karen.
Thank you. I'm reminded of a time when I was in the General Assembly, and Mary Margaret Whipple and I were talking together, and Taylor Murphy, who represented the Northern Neck, part of the Northern Neck, came up to us and said, I have to tell you that I think the Arlington delegation is the nicest delegation. And we said, well, that's very nice. Thank you, Taylor. And he said, I think you all like each other. And there were 6 of us at the time. And then we said, could you give us a little bit more information? And he said, well, yes, I just can't get over how well you get along, and you work together on all the legislation. So then I said, Taylor, we have known each other for 25 years. We have worked together. We've been Young Democrats together. We work in civic organizations together. We work on each other's campaigns and for other people as well. And so when you do something like that, you become friends. And then I realized, you know what? That's exactly what happened with Sharon and me. And she has become a dear friend, of course, even dearer because she was my campaign manager for 8 elections. And that showed me that she had the democratic values that she was developing during all the time that we were working together. And then she also has stamina beyond belief and beats me all the time. So I'm thrilled that she's being honored today.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate your remarks. Susan Prokop. Susan, are you still with us? I'd like you to say
I'm with you, and thank you, Barbara. Thank you all for this opportunity to participate in this program. I'm delighted that the Democratic Party is honoring Sharon. I met Sharon in the fall of 1975 when as a college sophomore, I walked into my first Arlington Young Democrats meeting. Sharon was one of the cool kids. These were the YD leaders who seemed to know all the issues, how to organize campaigns, and seemed to be able to interact effortlessly with myriad elected officials and candidates. And over the years, I saw her use those skills to draw others into her enthusiasm for the Democratic Party and its ideals and its values. Jim Turpin, who's sitting here to my left, who helped direct Sharon's school board campaign in 1999. Jim and I have been blessed to know her tireless civic advocacy and friendship for many decades. Sharon will always be one of the cool kids to us. And I am looking forward to tonight's review of all of the contributions she has made to Arlington and this country. And so without further ado, I will let the program continue.
Thank you, Susan. Paul Ruiz. Paul, are you available?
Thank you, Senator Favola. Congratulations.
Thank you, Paul.
This is truly been an honor to be part of in this amazing group of organizers. When Corey first asked me to come on as an event co-chair, I was a bit hesitant because I did not know Sharon. But I took it as an opportunity to learn. And I can tell you, I learned a lot about an Arlington Democrat who made many, many meaningful contributions through her life, through talking to our speakers who you'll hear from today, through a life and in photographs. I am so excited for this program. I'm so excited for this honoree, and I'm so happy to have this perspective. Thank you, Sharon, for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Paul. It's always great to garner new friends. So we appreciate you being with us. Thank you so much. And I should say Paul is doing a lot of the technical work behind this event today, as is Corey Barton. So thank you both. Well, Sharon, we have a very special guest. I believe she's still in the waiting room. I would like to take a moment to introduce Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. Debbie represents the 12th district in the state of Michigan. She was elected in 2015, is an amazing person. She is a nationally recognized advocate for women and children, and she's also been involved in many, many economic development partnerships, and she's been a catalyst for improving the communities in Michigan. Debbie's connection to Sharon, Debbie has been a spouse and longtime partner to Congressman John Dingell, who was actually our longest serving congressman, which is quite an honor. John Dingell chaired the Energy and Commerce Committee in the U.S. House of Representatives. And Sharon was the clerk to that committee for many years. So there certainly is a deep bond there. We are so proud to have you with us, Debbie. And I'd like to give you a moment to share some reflections with us. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Senator, thank you for all that you do for everybody in Virginia. And while Michigan's my home, I obviously live here. I do know you as the senator from Arlington, and my second house is in your district, and you do a great job. So thank you. It's great to be with the co-chairs of this event. And I see other friends on this Zoom that have known Sharon probably longer than I have. And I've known Sharon a long time. It's really, I think it's great that you all decided to honor her tonight, because she has been the glue of both the Energy and Commerce Committee, one of those people that everybody knows that they can count on, as well as in later years, I realized that she was the glue for so many of you in the Democratic Party in Virginia and Arlington. Sharon actually knew my husband longer than I did. The fact of the matter is she was hired by Harley Staggers in 1975.
Wow.
And I hadn't yet graduated from college and hadn't met John Dingell. That would come 5 years later. And Sharon, actually, I think, I have to check this. I had to ask somebody to get this for me and they didn't. But Sharon, I think that you were clerk from the moment he became chair for his entire history with the Energy and Commerce Committee until he retired years later. So she was clerk of the committee in majority when Democrats had the gavel. And quite frankly, she was the person everybody went to advice when the Republicans thought they were running it. But she really was the go-to person for everybody. And I think she once was asked, what does that mean being the clerk? She did everything. She knew everything. She really was the glue that kept so many things together. I actually did not know, the clerk has to read bills as they're being introduced. And I was married at this point, but I was young, probably naive at that point. And she, when the telecom bill, the major telecom bill was introduced, Sharon took 3 days to read the bill. She's remembering it.
I am.
3 days. Can you imagine reading a bill for 3 days? And people said, was it hard? And she said, it was my job. She never, ever, she's clerk again now under Frank Pallone. And she never loses her composure, but she's just a rock. John Dingell loved her. I want to tell you all that. He loved her, probably used some very politically incorrect words now because he called her a honey. I mean, it's true. You had to love John Dingell. I tried to tell him what worked in World War II didn't work in, but he stayed very current on issues that mattered to everyday people. But he loved Sharon, and he would do anything for Sharon, and she would do anything for him. So I know that he's up there with Ruth now. Somebody sent me a Facebook post last night and said, Ruth's getting used to her new room and having brunch this morning with Molly Ivins and Ann Richards. And they're plotting about how they're going to protect us. And John's up there with them, with those women. He loved her. So Sharon, congratulations on people recognizing how important you've been to so very, very many people for decades. Congratulations. Thank you for what you did for John Dingell, what you did for me, what you do for Democrats in the Hill, and congratulations on this well-deserved honor.
Debbie, can I just say a couple words only because I know the Congresswoman has to run.
Yes.
But Debbie Dingell, the great representative of the 12th District of Michigan, she is the hardest working member of Congress I have ever observed, at least in recent history. Probably she's giving Big John a run for his money now in terms of who probably puts in the most steps and the most hours in their work. But she is a great representative for that district. It's not an easy district. It's a very diverse district in terms of both views and beliefs. But she works hard, and also she works hard for the country because she's really the one who's pushing civility in politics, which I think in a lot of ways we in Arlington subscribe to. So I was very surprised to find out she was going to be joining us. I opened up my computer and I saw the invitation. There was this beautiful woman, and I thought, wow, who's that? It wasn't me. So I was like, oh my God. And that's how we learned that it was Debbie coming to.
No, but Sharon, you deserve this. She's I don't even know what's true and not true, but things I've heard. So when Democrats lost the House, she got a gavel. Sharon, is this a true story? A gavel that Harley Staggers had and allegedly belonged to Sam Rayburn. And when Democrats lost the House, she took that gavel, she kept it safe. And when John Dingell became chair again, she handed it back to him. She also understands the importance of rituals and traditions in history and civility.
Yes.
Congratulations, Sharon.
Thank you, Congresswoman Dingle. It has been a pleasure having you join us. We really appreciated your remarks, and I can tell that Sharon was very touched. So we wish you the best. Congress is going through some challenging times. The country's going through some challenging times, and your leadership is really needed. So.
Okay, Virginia, they say you've got this cold, so I'm
You got it.
counting on you. I'm afraid about Michigan still, so I'm still out there working for them. I was the
got
one
this.
that predicted 4 years ago. We're not going to let it happen.
No. We'll have you back in Michigan too. We got to deliver. Democracy's on the line. I understand.
I know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to our next speaker, and it is none other than the Honorable Jim Allman. And Jim was a former delegate for many years from Arlington. He was a delegate in the Virginia House of Delegates. He's also a former circuit court judge, and the bench in Arlington Circuit Court bench includes Arlington and Falls Church. But most importantly, Jim and Sharon grew up together, and they were active in the Arlington YDs. They were active in other Arlington-related Democratic activities. They really helped shape our party, the party that we know it today in Arlington. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Jim Allman into our homes, into the picture.
You have to unmute your
Unmute.
computer, Jim.
Jim, are you with us?
Yes,
Yeah, it's on. It's got to unmute.
I think I did. Right now. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to honor Sharon. Sharon's years of extraordinary service and belief in democratic ideals has been possible because of her lifetime of leadership. When I think of Sharon Davis, I'm reminded of so many wonderful memories. The Arlington Young Democrats in the 1970s and 1980s were office holders in YD offices and within the senior party, as well as holding elected offices at very young ages. Many have nicknames from that time, and many of you know what they are. The Washington Post did an article about the number of YDs who married other young Democrats. Al was a Norfolk YD and met Sharon through statewide Young Democratic politics. I attended their wedding in 1976. A few years later, Sharon was elected state YD president. He's worked together on numerous Democratic campaigns and each other's campaigns, sometimes managing a campaign, sometimes running for office ourselves. We rejoiced in each other's successes and mourned each other's losses. We were always attending each other's fundraisers, birthdays, holiday parties, and even vacationing together. The Gong Show was a fundraiser for the Allman campaign, where we called on our friends to perform mostly silly acts subject to being gonged. Sharon did a solo skit of the Galloping Gourmet and then a return performance in the 1981 Gong Show. Al dressed up as Groucho. Many of our friends, including Sharon, performed in a chicken costume, and to make matters worse, everybody paid to be gonged since it was a fundraiser. Sharon and Al were always great sports, and we appreciated each other's help. Sharon grew up in Arlington. She was a great mother to Matt and Alex, wonderful wife to Al. She worked day and night supporting Al's campaign and service on the county board, and supported him during his 3 terms as my successor in the House of Delegates. Sharon was always considerate of others and a wonderful friend to all of us. We shared the same doctor, Tom Conley. Sharon spent hours researching genealogy for David Bell and me for our 70th birthdays. And whenever Sharon has been in whatever capacity, she's always demonstrated the highest ideals of being a Democrat: honesty, integrity, impartiality, diversity, the rule of law, and equal rights and opportunity. It is through the leadership, dedication, and hard work of Sharon and the Democratic family which have resulted in Virginia's recent success of progressive legislation. I bring up all these memories because what I am most grateful for is our friendship. When I look back at the years of YDs, campaigns, and life milestones, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude that I have been able to share these times not only with Sharon, but the whole family of Democrats that we became. It's an honor to be able to see you all and to continue to applaud each other's accomplishments and what we've done together. As Sharon said at the 1985 JJ dinner, when she was completing her 4 years as chairperson of the ACDC, quote, "Let's all commit ourselves to continuing the work of the Democratic Party. It's important to Arlington, the Commonwealth of Virginia, the nation." Congratulations, Sharon, on your award, and we love you.
Well said, Honorable. That was wonderful, Jim. Thank you so much. As you can tell, various speakers are going to share different insights into Sharon's amazing life, her contributions, and her personality. And next, we are going to hear from Charlene Bickford. And Charlene was actually chair of the Arlington Democratic Committee. She served 2 terms as chair, and one of those terms succeeded Sharon. And I think the important thing to remember is Charlene and Sharon together chaired the U.S. Presidential Democratic Caucus to select a candidate to run in the 1984 general election. And CNN followed the caucus operation for the entire day. That's pretty amazing. That's what we call sharing best practices. Taking what you learned in Arlington and going to a bigger stage, taking it nationally. So without further ado, Charlene, I hope you are in the chat box. We are looking forward to hearing from you. Okay. We're not sure Charlene is on. So what I'm going to do is just put a little hold here, and I'm going to move on. Aaron Blayton. Aaron, I hope you're with us. I can remember you when I attended the various parties at Sharon's home. You were like a daughter to Sharon. You're a friend, a neighbor, and I know you were a babysitter for Sharon's 2 sons. We're delighted to have you. Would you mind sharing some reflections with us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barbara. Yes, you've already covered several of the things I'm going to talk about, but yes, definitely babysitter, definitely daughter. But you know, I have about 4 minutes to cover almost 40 years of history with Sharon. So I'll do my very best. You know, in thinking about being asked to speak about Sharon at such an event, you know, I'm honored, I'm touched, I'm grateful, and I really love to just be able to share this as a tribute, as a sign of my appreciation for all of her love and support over the years and how she's transformed my life so greatly. So starting in 1984, when I became an Arlingtonian, I moved on to Irving Street with my dad, and you know, quickly got to know Sharon. My earliest memories are of Matthew bouncing up and down like a crazy, yes, he's laughing, bouncing up and down and pregnant Sharon taking Matthew and I to Baskin Robbins. And then shortly thereafter, Alex being born and going over to the house to visit him for the first time. So we go back a long way. And in addition to being her neighbor, I then went on her payroll as her babysitter and spent many years with, Matthew's laughing again, many years taking care of Alex and Matthew, but more Alex, Matthew would say. Yeah, right. And even to the earliest time when I remember Sharon was on a Codell and Al had a public speaking event in Bon Air Park for Arbor Day. And I spent the whole day at Bon Air Park with Matthew. I don't even know what we did, but it was crazy. And that was my first babysitting gig while Al was making speeches and pushing Alex around in a stroller. It takes a village. So, you know, from that point, being sort of Sharon's second pair of hands or what have you, you know, we sort of went on from there. And suddenly I realized, you know, I was becoming part of her family. During high school, I spent every Thursday night over at their house for dinner, watching ER. Yes, watching ER. I spent, I guess it's okay to say this, that we did my college applications on a typewriter in Rayburn. Right? Yeah. And I never would have known how to do that without Sharon. She took me prom dress shopping. She took the pictures when I went to my prom. And I remember the day that I went to college and sobbing in her arms in my driveway. And then during my college years, when she would come and visit me in college, and the people in the dorm would, at the desk greeting her, would then ask me if she was my sister or my mother. So over the years, that trend continued and just became more and more solidified. Sharon has been my neighbor. She's been my friend. She's been my mentor in high school. I interviewed her to find out about her job for part of a school project, not having any idea what a rock star she was, in addition to raising Matthew and Alex, running a house with Al, and getting her graduate degree, all while doing this huge job. I mean, just such a rock star. I also spent many years, many summers over the years at the beach. And I think many of you will have an inner smile about this, thinking of Al yelling, Sharon, and Sharon, Karen, and Aaron all responding. That went on for years.
It's an amazing story.
My adult years with Sharon I look at them as I've given her what I hope, something that has enriched her life, because she has truly enriched mine in so many ways. She's always been there and still always is. She was there the night I got engaged and then practically planned my wedding. She drove to the hospital, followed us in the car the night I had Henry, and stayed by my side for 32 hours before Henry was born, and then repeated the same thing 3 years later, although it did not take 30 hours with Roger. There's never a question that I'm sister to Matthew and Alex. There's never a question that I'm a friend, a daughter. She's been and continues to be a mom to me, Nana to my boys, confident even to my husband. And all of that is just what she's done for me. And I'm so honored to be able to share that snippet of her life with you all. And also to see so many faces that I've gotten to know over the years. And I mean, I could go on, but I know we have many other speakers to go. And I just want to say that I love you so much. And I'm so honored to be able to participate tonight. So thank you.
Oh, that was so sweet.
Well, it's Sharon. It's Sharon.
Thank you, Erin. That was wonderful. Thank you. Now we're going to try to mix the old and the new, and we have a wonderful new candidate for school board. Christian Diaz Torres, Christina Diaz Torres. Christina was a former teacher. She is an education consultant. She comes to us with lots of great ideas. We're so looking forward to having her elected to the school board. And I'm glad you can join us, Christina. I hope you are in the waiting room or the chat room.
I'm right here.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. This is so great. It's so great to see. There's 88 people on a Zoom on a Saturday evening. It's just wonderful to see all of your faces. As a former joint campaign co-chair, honoring a senior Democrat is one of my favorite events every single year because of this group, because you get to see so many wonderful faces and share memories and then learn so much. Sharon, we've met in passing, but we do not necessarily have, it's gonna be hard for me to follow Erin. She's just got so many personal memories with you, but I am so glad to hear all of your stories about being an AYD. As I look around at my colleagues, I'm an AYD myself. I was on the Virginia Young Democrats board, and I look around at my colleagues, I can see the stories that we'll be telling in many, many years in all of the stories that your colleagues are telling about you. And it's just wonderful to hear how you've transformed how your leadership has transformed over years, and how you've really been a rock star for the Democratic Party here in Arlington, on the Hill, and writ large. So thank you so much for all of your years of service and for just being an incredible gift to this community. I think Jim used the words honesty, integrity, and equal rights to describe you, and that just felt so amazing and authentic and wonderful. So thank you so very much, and congratulations on this wonderful honor. But as I am still in campaign mode, I would be remiss if I didn't give you a little bit of my stump. As Senator Favola mentioned, I'm a former teacher and an education policy specialist running for Arlington School Board because I believe that every student has a right to succeed. I began my career as a high school math teacher in Del Sol Academy for the Performing Arts, which was an English learner dense high school in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it was one of the most rewarding jobs that I've ever had. So many of you on this call are also teachers, and you know what it means to walk into a classroom and see students looking up at you, expecting you to be able to teach them, and looking up at you as their guiding light. But when I walked into my first day of teaching, I had 54 students, but only 48 desks. My students were there to learn math, and yet the leaders that were in charge of making sure that I had the resources I needed were completely failing at arithmetic. And so as a policy specialist, I now work every day with education organizations to make sure that that never happens to anyone else, or at least minimize it whenever possible. And so then when the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted normal learning, my focus shifted, and now I am focusing on making sure that states and districts are able to resume normal learning to the greatest extent possible. I seek input from stakeholders, design at the margins, and make decisions that are going to meet current and future demands, because we need to make sure that we're creating sustainable practices throughout. And so I think that this pandemic is a call to action, and it's going to take leaders just like Sharon and all of you who are on this call to get us through it. If we can coalesce around a vision of an Arlington Public Schools where every student has a right to succeed, where things like honesty, integrity, equal rights, equity are true for every single kid, no matter their race, their religion, their legal status, their LGBTQ identity, their disability level, doesn't matter. They all have a right to succeed, and we will find what they need to be able to do that. We are going to transform education, at least here in Arlington and beyond. And I'm really excited to be running on the ballot along with a wonderful slate of candidates from the White House all the way down to the schoolhouse. And I am excited to count on all of you to help get us across this finish line. So we're in uncharted territory right now. We don't have a specific roadmap to guide us through the next couple of months. But I think that with some really, really dedicated hard work, like what we've seen from Sharon and from all of you on this call, we're going to be able to get that win in November and take back our democracy. Because let's be real, if we don't do it, we're all going to go a little crazy. So I'm not going to take too much more of your time, but I appreciate all of you. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be available on the chat. My website is christinaforarlington.com, and don't forget to vote between now and November 3rd. Thanks, y'all.
Great message. Thank you. It was wonderful, Christina. Well, Sharon, a lot of people are very enthusiastic about honoring you. And we do have somebody who you've known forever, the Honorable David Bell. David has been former clerk for over 30 years in the circuit court for Arlington and Falls Church. And he was an amazing public servant in his own right. I don't know if he has joined us, but while I'm talking about public servants, I'll take a moment to introduce the elected officials who have joined us and will not be making remarks later in the program. Our new Commonwealth Attorney, Parissa Tafty, has signed on, so she's listening in. And Delegate Patrick Hope has signed on, and I think he is also listening in. So thank you and welcome to the two of you. If I have missed some other elected officials, maybe my team can text me. I certainly don't mean to overlook anybody. I, again, will go back and ask if David Bell is checked in yet. Oh, school board member Monique O'Grady is also in the chat room and is listening in. Thank you, Monique, for joining us. And I think I see a shadow of the Honorable David Bell. David, are you with us? Do you want to just adjust your screen?
There's my, the thing about Zoom and me, Barbara, is it makes me look like I'm an old bald guy with a gray mustache, and I don't know why that happened.
I don't know how that could be. I just don't know.
But it's appropriate that we're doing this virtually for Sharon, because when this is done most of the time, she's the hostess. So the fact that we're able to do this in this way is great, and it's really great to see so many old friends. I heard Susie Prokop mentioning 1975. In 1975, she was little Susie Prokop, and I bet my wife $100 that the only person that would be doing a virtual presentation in a coat and tie is my friend Jim Allman. So, and I think I win the 100.
We love you, Jim.
I'm really honored to have been asked to say a few words on Sharon's behalf. I can't think of anybody that has served certainly in more leadership capacities for the party than Sharon. Chair of this party, the first woman ever to chair the Virginia Young Democrats, so many campaign chairmanships, so many joint campaign chairs that she's done. Just, I could go on and on, but also she's been such an active person in the community, active in the schools, nurturing of young people. When she didn't find anything else to do, she decided to create a daycare center at the end of her street there, the Little Beginnings Daycare Center, which one of my granddaughters actually attended. I have known Sharon, my wife Kathy and I have known Sharon for about 45 years, and Al a little bit later than that. And when we kind of raised our children together, as a matter of fact, when Sharon was pregnant with Matthew, Kathy was pregnant with our oldest, Jennifer, same time. Jennifer was born a few days after Matthew. And then 6 years later, Alex was born. And a few days after Alex was born, our Alicia was born, our second child. So it just so happens that Sharon and Kathy had the same obstetrician. And when Kathy was told 3 years later that we were about to have our third child, she came out of the office, walked into the parking lot, and there was Sharon observing Kathy with a bunch of vitamin pills. And she went into that cackle voice that she can go into and go, "Kathy, get away from me!" And that was the end of that. But we have done a lot together. I do remember that at a joint campaign meeting that was held in my house, Sharon arrived with Alex in tow. And we all went down, those of us that were participating in the meeting went down to my rec room, and Kathy kind of took charge of Alex and took him over to play with Alicia. The meeting ended, everybody went home, and Sharon went home. And I think the only person that stayed behind for a few minutes was Charlene Bickford, and Kathy came out of the bedroom or wherever they were and said, what am I supposed to do with Alex? And so, Alex, I want you to know that Charlene, I think I wound up taking you home, so we were not able to sell you to the circus after that meeting. The truth is, Sharon Davis is one of the most resilient and remarkable people I have ever known. We all have our crosses to bear, and Sharon's, I think, has been heavier than many, particularly due to the health of her family, of her loved ones, and of herself. And she has done that with magnificent grace and fortitude. She continues to contribute to this community and to this country. I'm honored to call her a friend and to have been asked to say a few words here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. That was lovely and very touching. Thank you. I'm going to keep the program moving because I know we all want to get to that toast at the end. We're having a wonderful time, however, learning more about Sharon. Our next speaker is the Honorable Robert Brink, or Bob Brink, as we all know him. Bob actually started his career. He worked as an attorney on the House Judiciary Committee. He worked on many campaigns here in Arlington. He ran for office himself and represented us in the House of Delegates, representing the 48th District. And now he is the chair of Virginia's Board of Elections, appointed by Governor Ralph Northam. Bob, I hope you are in the room and the chat room and are able to share a few thoughts on Sharon.
Thank you, Barbara, Senator. This is a story about one of the ugliest buildings in the entire world. That's the Rayburn House office building.
I remember it. I worked there.
I know. So many of the people on this call actually did.
Yeah.
About 40 years ago, we bought our first house in Arlington Forest. And one day when we were out for a walk with our one-year-old toddler, David, we met a neighbor from up Granada Street by the name of Lucy Denny. Lucy asked me where I worked. I said that I was on the staff of a House committee in the Rayburn building. And Lucy said, "Oh, Sharon Davis works in the Rayburn building. Do you know her?" And I said, "No, I don't." And Lucy says, "Well, you ought to." Well, anybody who remembers Lucy knows that you always did exactly what she told you to do.
Yes.
So the next week, I walked down the hall of the Rayburn building to the Energy and Commerce Committee offices and introduced myself to Sharon. And so began a friendship that runs right up to today. Back in the days before 9/11, Capitol Hill was like a college campus. It was a free and open place where you could roam around as you wanted to, and you frequently crossed paths with familiar faces in the cafeteria or in the line at the credit union. Sharon and I were among the legion of staff people that were called Hill Rats. We worked for two of the legendary larger-than-life figures in Congress, Sharon for John Dingell of Michigan, and me for Jack Brooks of Texas. Last year, a biography of my chairman came out called "The Meanest Man in Congress." This is a copy of the book. And the Meanest Man in Congress was a title that was bestowed on Jack Brooks by Richard Nixon during his impeachment. I think that anybody who had to appear as a hostile witness before John Dingell would say that Mr. Dingell gave Mr. Brooks a run for his money in that category. But to their staffs, you couldn't ask for a better, more supportive, more loyal boss than John Dingell and Jack Brooks. One of the fortunate benefits of working for those powerful Democratic chairmen was ready access to the Democratic union printer who produced materials for the majority members of Congress. As a result, he ended up printing a lot of Arlington joint campaign brochures and sample ballots and other materials. Sharon and I thought that we would never get the smell of printer's ink out of our station wagons from hauling all of that material back to Arlington. Over on the Virginia side of the Potomac, our families grew up together. In high school, our sons played basketball against each other. Matt was a superstar for W&L, and David's job was to make sure that the Yorktown bench stayed exactly where it was supposed to throughout the game. So we've shared experiences ranging from more joint campaigns and county board auctions and messenger days than either of us can recall. To Sharon running to go to the 1984 Democratic National Convention in San Francisco, and me running to go to the 2008 convention in Denver, to managing the first race for delegate for a friend of ours named Karen Darner, to Sharon's exciting emergency surgery over the 4th of July weekend a few years ago down in Richmond. As members of the Arlington Democratic family, we've had very many happy moments together, some very sad times also, but the good has far outweighed the bad. So today, we're honoring Sharon as a senior Democrat. The only downside to that is that, along with a lot of other people on today's program, it means that I'm a senior Dem as well. But I'll accept that because it means that we can look forward to another 40 years of adventures with our friend Sharon Davis. Thank you very much for making me a part of today's celebration.
Thank you, Bob. That was wonderful.
Bob.
Thank you so much. Just a few quick announcements, and we're going to keep the program moving. I do appreciate the fact our speakers are staying within their 4 minutes. That is very important. So thank you. Anyways, joining us, Barbara Kainanen, Vice Chair of the School Board, and Tanya Talenta, former Chair of the School Board. I think I had mentioned Monique O'Grady was also on the call. And Barbara Eppersole is Sharon's sister. And Barbara, welcome. Thank you for listening in. I know you're a bit under the weather, but your presence means a lot to Sharon and to all of us. So moving on, let's keep mixing the current and past electeds. We have Libby Garvey, and Libby's the current chair of the Arlington County Board. Libby's running for re-election, and I know she'd like to share a few thoughts with us. Libby.
Hey, thank you, Barbara. You can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's great to be here. This is a bit of a trip down memory lane. Sharon, it is wonderful to see you getting the kind of recognition that you have long deserved. You're one of those people who keeps it all, as people have said, you're the glue, keeps it all going. Whenever something needed to be done, you would see it. And then if nobody else was doing it, you would do it. And this is on all different kind of levels: professional, political, personal, for friends, for people you've just gotten to know. You know, you and I'm not from the very beginning. My stories don't go back as long. I came on the scene politically in the sort of early mid 90s. Although I'm one of those people that worked at the Rayburn House office building. I don't know how many people knew that, but I was with Lee Hamilton, and John Dingell was on the same floor around the corner, I think, because I would see him at the elevator. So Sharon, you and I probably maybe even passed in the hall, but I recognized John, but I didn't recognize you because I didn't know you. So, you know, I think it's really important to recognize the folks that really do the work. I often think, you know, leaders, we're the electeds and we get a lot of recognition stuff. That's kind of part of our job. But the people who do all the support and make it happen are just as important, and frankly, I think more important often. But what I value about Sharon so much is it's not just about politics, it's about friendship as well when it comes to doing the work, seeing what needs to be done, and stepping up when it has to be done. One of my favorite quotes was from, I think it was Kurt Vonnegut, and somebody asked him what was the purpose of life? And Kurt apparently said, purpose of life? I can't answer that question. I mean, you need a priest I mean, that's not my job. I don't know what the purpose of life is, but I know what our job is. Our job is to help each other get through it. And I think, Sharon, there are too many people who don't do that job, but you have always. The politics has been part of helping the whole community get through it. That's what good politics is about, making sure everybody can kind of get through life and do well. And then as a friend, you've always seen to it that all of us can get through life too. You know, we had some good discussions. My husband Ken and I very suddenly about the same time Al was entering into his issues with health, and we were both dealing with a lot of things as wives. And I appreciate the discussions we've had there, and some discussions about helping our sort of almost adult kids get through some difficult times too. So I really appreciate that. I just, you know, want to thank you for everything. I'm not going to take too much time. Yeah, I've got a campaign going on. Please vote for me. Please re-elect me. I think I've done a pretty good job, but this is about Sharon today. So thank you so very much, Sharon, for being there always. And let's have a glass of wine one of these days when we can do it. Socially distanced, of course, but there's a lot to catch up on. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Libby. It was very nice. Okay, are we still, I hope we're still in our chat box mode, and our speakers are lining up, and I'm delighted they are. Candy Butler is our next speaker. Candy's a longtime friend of Sharon's. Candy actually worked on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I think served as deputy clerk when Sharon was clerk. So I'm sure there are lots of stories to share.
Any more than that, let me say. Maybe she'll go into it.
Maybe she'll go into it. Okay, Candy, are you with us? Unfortunately, I don't see
She's
her.
on mute. She just needs to unmute her phone.
You're on mute.
Okay, Candy?
You're on mute, Candy. I got it.
You got it. Okay.
Well, it's still exciting to be here celebrating Sharon.
It is, right? Happy to.
Even if all the right buttons aren't being pushed. No, it was, I tried to time what I had to say, and so that's why I'm going to try to stick to it. Otherwise, as some people know, I do tend to go on. But Sharon, the honor you're receiving is so well deserved. So much service, so much energy, so much leadership, actually, in the spirit of RBG. You know, lead so that other people will follow. And I have to admit that when you and I first met through Arlington Young Dems, I doubt either of us had any thought of being senior Democrats. And quite honestly, it probably never occurred to us that we'd be senior anything. Isn't youth wonderful? So, but here we are, a few years later, journeying together and separately to this moment to celebrate a real jewel, a really, you're sparkle plenty, Sharon. The chapter of Sharon's story, as was mentioned, that I appear in most frequently is the Capitol Hill chapter, which you're still writing and still making history. The first Zoom markup. We shared a unique experience working on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And I do have to divert because all these other stories have made me remember other moments. And this is not a committee story. This is a new house story. She and Al bought their first house. And Matt, this is also where I took the historic picture of you smelling the tulip. Anyway, I went over for a
Did not know that.
Pardon?
I did not know that.
Oh, okay. The interior house painting consult. And I clued them in that you needed, at least at that day and time, you had to use primer on the walls before you put the color on. So back to the committee. It was a really distinct privilege being on the staff during what could now be called the John D. Dingell era. It was unique in that we both had unusually lengthy service on the committee. It's, you know, Capitol Hill tends to be high turnover. But Sharon was chief clerk. Her title was chief clerk and administrative assistant, but the staff knew her as C²AA. And I think we were together, what, 27 years, Sharon? About. She managed all facets of the committee, everything that made the committee run. And she did so with an acute sense of both the politics and the people. As one person put it to me, she was smart for everyone around her. And this continues. This is just how this is just who she is. She also had a really good sense of timing. Both Matt and Alex were born during congressional recess periods. And Mrs. Dingell mentioned the telecom bill. And there's another detail. There were, as you sit in many markups, you learn different things. For instance, when Mr. Dingell comes into the room wearing his rifle tie clip, you know that it's going to be a slam bang, thank you ma'am markup. Also on the telecom bill, she read for 3 days. However, there was this very subtle pen up, read faster, pen down, read slower. So all those little things are just really interesting. In 1993, Mrs. Clinton testified before the committee about the administration's healthcare legislation. Always making sure every detail was attended to, Sharon brought in her silver tea service. She placed it on the witness table right next to Mrs. Clinton in case she wanted some tea. So as I recall, Sharon, you correct me, a photo of Mrs. Clinton with the tea service made it to the cover of Time magazine. We also lived through being on the Capitol grounds.
Hey, Andy, I'm going to correct you on one thing.
Yes.
That is, Mrs. Clinton had been at our office for a meeting before, and we knew she liked hot tea, and all we could give her was a styrofoam cup of it from the carryout.
Mm-hmm.
So when I knew she was coming for the hearing, I brought in my porcelain coffee pot with a teacup and spoon, just so we didn't look like a bunch of, you know, everywhere else. But I gave it to her in the waiting room, Mr. Dingell's room, before she went on. She carried it into the hearing room, and so she put the teapot in the cup by her, and it was in all the hearings. Now the sad thing on this was that the picture is actually in the Clinton Library in Little Rock, Arkansas. However, it is labeled that she's at the Ways and Means Committee. Talk about it.
Okay.
Anyway, that's the
historical inaccuracies. Oh well. We'll have to visit them and correct them. So as the Dingell era of the committee was winding down, it came time for Mr. Dingell to consider the archiving of the papers of his historic public service. So naturally,
He turned to Sharon.
She dove into the project with all her heart, knowing that it might be the last best task she could perform on his behalf. And it was a historic effort. Sharon approached it knowing the importance of preserving his record of service. She examined every box, every item in every storeroom, and that was no small task. not with 50 years of papers. 55? Close enough. Anyway, it was the
Counting
honor.
his father, it probably was closer to 60.
Okay, yeah, his father too. Yeah, yeah. It was the honor of my career to join the archive team, but it was definitely like jumping onto a fast-moving train. I think the whole project took about 2.5 years. We're not sure about the woman hours, but we didn't really count or care. It was history, and it was for Mr. Dingle. On May 6, 2015, Mr. Dingle formally presented his papers to the University of Michigan. Sharon and I were invited to attend. All told, the papers submitted to the library amounted to more than 700 boxes. And Matt, I'm sure you've seen a few of them in your house.
I'm very much looking forward to the end of this story.
Am I exceeding my time?
Well, we got a few more speakers, so, but go ahead, Candy, you're very interested.
It is. With all the time, energy, and care that she gave to the committee, she still had so much to give her family and her community. You're amazing.
You're amazing. That was said with love and affection. So thank you, Candy. That was wonderful. Well, now we're going to turn to the blood-related family members, and it's going to be a pleasure because I saw you boys grow up. You're the same age as my son. Matthew, you're the older son, as I recall. Are you doing well?
I'm doing well. I am now back in I'm back in Arlington, or Alexandria, Virginia. I just moved back from Los Angeles after 10 years being there. I know it hasn't felt like that because I haven't been able to see everybody really in person. So it's just amazing to be able to see everybody. I think we would all usually be gearing up to go over to Mary Margaret Whipple's house tomorrow to watch. I guess it's the Washington football team now. But I'm back. I've gotten engaged.
Oh, congratulations!
So, my fiance is actually working for the Energy and Commerce Committee now. So she's my mother has been just an amazing mentor to her. But I'm doing well. It's really, really great to see everybody here. It's Barbara, thank you so much for introducing. And it just listening to the stories and it's bringing back so much nostalgia. Some a little uncomfortable nostalgia, actually. I grew up. I was born into. Sharon, my mother, had me, and Alex. We grew up into Virginia politics. It blended our lives blended as much into our personal as it was into the politics. I mean, as my life has sort of progressed, I've realized just how much of a superwoman my mother really is. You kind of, when you're growing up as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 8-year-old or even your teens, you kind of tend not to think, you don't realize how much, how much someone can do until you look back and you realize all the accomplishments and everything that someone has actually been able to accomplish over that course of time. And me looking back, it's just amazing what my mother and Sharon has been able to accomplish. I remember as a kid, I used to interrupt people's speeches, probably over at Lion Hall. As I used to be putting a little shenanigans in, and I think when I turned 13, I realized, man, I was a pretty rambunctious kid growing up. And I think I turned it to James Hunter and I said, I'm surprised people still come around, after me. And they're like, well, they're not coming around for you. They're coming around for Sharon. She's a great lady. So, that's why they're coming around. But Sharon is an amazing, the fact that she was able to do all the things that she's done, from doing everything in Virginia politics to the Capitol Hill to, still finding time to go to me and Alex's basketball games, going to our plays, my theater plays, probably dragging most of you guys to see me.
Oh, she did.
She did. Oh, I know she did. I mean, being able to do all of these things is just it's just unbelievable. It's just, you don't see that in somebody. I mean, a lot of times, you have a lot of people that somehow, they live to work, right? And then some other people, they work to live. And you kind of try to choose those different types of balances. And she's able to somehow do both. She was a loving, wife to my father, cared for him during sickness. She supported everything I've ever done. And I've been all over the map, been an actor, been worked for David Bell, just worked in restaurants, just trying to figure my life out, supported everything I've done, everything my brother has done. She brought Erin Blanton into our lives. She's a sister of ours, and that's the thing that she's always really talked to me about. The big value part is she always bestowed upon me was, think about other people. Think about what you can do to help somebody else out. And the things that will happen to you will take care of itself. And, always really just think about how you can make somebody else better. And I listened to these stories, and I heard the story. I'm staring at that teapot right there, the one that she gave Hillary Clinton. And why did she give it to her? Because she was worried about her using some styrofoam cup, testifying, right? I mean, she's worried about that.
That's what mothers do. We sweat the details.
Sweat the details, but you remember it. You remember it. And I know she had a couple of heartbreaking losses in the school board, and we understand that. But how many people on this call here what did she do to help everyone else get elected? She's been so much involved in the success of this community, but then also national politics as well. Being on the Hill and the John Dingell archives. That's what she cares about, him and his legacy, and making sure that when people look back, that every little detail, every little thing that he's done is accounted for, and people know that there's a record of it. Same thing with my father. She would scour the newspapers to make sure anything that he's done, that there's a record of it. And but it just goes to just something deeper. She's a superwoman. And if there was a cape and an S symbol, it wouldn't be out of character to place it on her. And I love her, and I love you, Mother. And I'm so proud of you. And this is just this is overdue, and thank you all for giving my mother this award. And by the way, Michael Jordan retired twice and came back again, played for the Wizards. So she's going to be involved for a while. She's going to continue to do the great work that she's always done. So thank you all so much. Oh, Alex, you're up.
That was a very loving tribute. You really did your mother proud. You're great. Your younger brother, Alex. Is Alex in the queue?
I am here.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hi. Thank you. So as you heard, she's been a rock to our family, and there's no questioning my mother's work ethic. She works incredibly hard and works long hours. And when Matt and I were growing up, she was there for us. She would schedule the dentist and doctor appointments. She was there for us when we were sick. If we needed extra support in school, she was there to provide it. When my brother would make mistake after mistake, she was there for him. And then when I made mistakes, she made sure my brother was held accountable. Ultimately, though, she had and has a great feel for knowing when we needed more support and when to take a step back and let us grow on our own. And I also have to add that she was a model basketball mother. She was essentially my JV basketball team's video coordinator. She recorded almost every game. when I was in high school, and many of these games had early start times, so she had to leave work early and attend them, and she did. And she also knew never to say anything negative or embarrassing on film, because she knew that the entire team would see that tape in film sessions, despite other people in the crowd, like shouting at the refs or doing whatever. She knew to stay calm and neutral behind the camcorder. And now when you have one child that shares your political point of view, you can chalk it up to luck. But when you have two, you can also consider that luck. But I do think really it says something about that both her children believe in democratic values, the belief in using government power to lift people up who are less fortunate, to that government can be used as a tool for good, the belief in equal rights, and last but not least, a woman's right to choose. But if there is one lesson politically that she has instilled into me, it is the importance of voting. It doesn't matter whether there is a potential president on the ballot, or whether I'll be entering a voting booth looking at a ballot of local officials, all unopposed, in the middle of August. I'm getting a text or a call reminding me to vote. And that's one of the most valuable pieces of advice.
That is a perfect ending to this testimonial. That is so perfect. Sharon, you did a remarkable job. Your grown son, gave us the message to vote.
I'm so proud of them.
I know. We just could not have delivered that any better. I don't mean to cut you off, Alex. Is there anything more you would like to say?
We love you, Mother, and I just want to thank you for letting me speak, and thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. That's just wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have some entertainment. Our speakers have been great, but we also have some official entertainment. Susan Lexner and George Hobart. Susan, I don't know if you all know her. Susan Lexner has many, many traits, and she's got many talents. She's a songwriter among her many talents, even though I know she's a great cook. I used to get her blintzes all the time at the county board auction. But she wrote a song for Sharon, and George Hobart, who is a member of the Arlingtons, is going to sing it. His wife Marjorie may be joining us, but I'm really looking forward to this entertainment. So Susan and George, are you on?
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, I want to say that my first introduction to Sharon was through my old Civil War buddy Al Eisenberg. He took a group of us on a wonderful tour of Gettysburg, and afterward I met Sharon, and I'm so glad to be a part of this to learn all the wonderful things about Sharon. I want to tell you that I've just come from the Arlington VFW chapter, where I was honored as the only Korean War veteran who was there, and Representative Dingell was lauded for his for what he did to enable the Korean War Memorial. I also am glad to have met Alex and Matthew. Alex, I can appreciate what you said as the younger brother. My older brother always took the blame for anything I did wrong. Okay, enough of that. Now, I'm sure you all know that in 1932, at FDR's inaugural, his favorite song was Anchors Away, and the band played Anchors Away over and over and over again until finally somebody in the audience said, said, enough of that. Let's have something better. And so the band played this song, which has become the theme of the Democratic Party through the years. And also, when the Prohibition was repealed, a lot of the American men changed the lyrics to "Happy days or beer again." So here's a song. Today is Sharon Davis Day. She's always led us in the fray, and she'll still help us throw Trump away. She's our senior Democrat. She tried retirement practice then, till Congress called her back again. Now she's bossing all those congressmen. She's our senior Democrat. She's always been there for us. That's why we're making this fuss. We can't all join her in one room, but that's no cause for doom and gloom, since we're all together now on Zoom for our senior Democrat.
Very good. Thank you so much, George. That was perfect. Thank you, Susan, for the lyrics. Very entertaining. I hope you can stay for the rest of the program. We completely enjoyed that song.
Yay, yay.
Continuing to mix our past with our future, I'd like to introduce one of our second school board endorsed candidates, David Pretty. David, are you with us? Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
It's great to be here today. I love to hear the stories, and obviously this day is for Sharon, so I'll be brief so we can get back to it. I'm not going to read a bill for 3 days like we heard about earlier, but I would love to do the Gong Show. So if anybody wants to do a reboot, just let me know. I'm in for it. So done. Well, about the campaign though. Many of you know me, but if this is our first introduction, I am David Pretty. I'm a parent of 2 sons in APS, a business leader, a lifelong Arlingtonian, running for one of 2 open seats for Arlington County School Board. You heard from Christina earlier on the campaign pillars of equity, proper planning, and transparent communication. Before stepping back from the workforce to support my family at home, I was a professional leader in the vertical transportation industry. So I understand the business side of APS, having firsthand experience overseeing multi-million-dollar budgets, partnering with labor unions, and managing construction projects. I just finished serving as the president of Thomas Jefferson Middle School's PTA, and I hold roles in many community organizations. And after the past 3 weeks with school starting from home, I can also include distance learning coach and technical solutions advisor and hall monitor in my own home now. So I have a vision to achieve equity in APS, a plan to go along with it. I have a vision for dealing with planning and capacity issues and how I will collaborate to help bring the school board forward together for the future. And having boots on the ground involvement in everyday APS affords me the perspective of understanding how to take us through COVID-19 as a community, and with the business background to make fiscally responsible decisions. So I'm on the ground with parents, students, teachers every day, and I'm ready to bring their voices to the Arlington School Board if elected this November. Now, I'm new to the Arlington Democrats, but not new to being a Democrat, right? I was raised by Peace Corps parents. They met and got married in the Peace Corps who instilled democratic values. And not unlike others, it was 4 years ago that I saw the results of the election and realized that I needed to do more. So here I am, trying to add civility and honesty, as we referenced earlier in the program. I've been at the polls every day since early voting started and seen the leadership and the great organizational skills. The Arlington Democrats is a well-run organization, And it didn't get there overnight. The machine is a well-oiled product. It comes from years of perfecting how we campaign. So thank you, Sharon, for contributing in providing that foundation. And let's get back to stories to honor Sharon.
Thank you, David. Well said. Best of luck too in your campaign. Moving right along, we have Margot Horner with us. I've known Margot for many years, very active in the Arlington Democratic Committee, but she is now the chair of the 8th Congressional Democratic Committee and doing a great job. I have the privilege of serving as one of the General Assembly officials to that committee. Margot, thank you for joining us. I hope you're in the chat room.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I am here. I met Sharon in February 1976 at a monthly meeting of the Arlington Young Democrats. Sharon, who joined the Arlington Young Democrats in 1971, was running to the podium to address the AYDs about the upcoming Virginia Young Democrats Convention in Arlington. Sharon was the chairperson of the VAYD's Convention Committee and spoke about the many activities and speakers, including a number of new freshman members of Congress elected in 1974. Sharon reminded the AYDs to buy their VAYD's dinner ticket early because there would be a sellout crowd at the Hospitality House to see convention dinner keynoter former Vice President Hubert Humphrey. For fun convention activities included a champagne bus tour of Washington and a Bloody Mary party, and a sellout crowd to each and every activity occurred. In 1976, Arlington's own Jim Allman was completing a successful term as president of the VAYDs, and there was a competitive contest for his successor between Alexandria's Bo James Brinsfield and Southwest Virginia's J. Jack Kennedy. Sharon happened to also be running for the VAYD's National Committee Woman, a position that secured Sharon a seat on the State Central Committee. And in 1976, Sharon received the Outstanding Young Democrat Award. Sharon next turned her attention to fundraising for the Virginia Young Democrats, and Sharon chaired the VAYD's incredible event at the Kennedy Center. The play, first Monday in October, with Henry Fonda and Jane Alexander, had a pre-Broadway engagement at the Kennedy Center starting in December 1977. Sharon acquired the necessary financial deposit, and yes, there was another sellout crowd for the play. And to top it off, Sharon secured a reception with Henry Fonda. It was quite a wow. During the 70s, Sharon and I, and many other speakers that you will hear or have heard from today, were also working as members of the Arlington County Democratic Committee, either on steering, as precinct captains, or as volunteers. With an election every year in Arlington, there were numerous political campaigns every year. Sharon went on to serve as chair of the Arlington Democratic Committee, as we've heard. And in 1984, Sharon decided that she would run as a Walter Mondale National Delegate. Sharon asked me to help her with her Mondale National Delegate candidacy, since I had been elected as a Jimmy Carter National Delegate in 1980. I insisted that Sharon call all 10th District Mondale National Delegates and alternates. I sat next to Sharon in Sharon and Al's home and coached Sharon as she made the important telephone calls. Of course, we did not have laptops or smartphones for the all-important emails and texting. I told Sharon to send personal notes to all of the delegates and alternates. And I must say, Sharon enjoyed her service as a Mondale National Delegate in San Francisco. Thus, with Sharon on the activities, I worked with Sharon on the activities of the Arlington Young Democrats, the Virginia Young Democrats, and the Arlington County Democratic Committee. And I preceded Sharon on the Board of Visitors of George Mason University. In everything that we did together, we had many fun times. And for me, working with Sharon on a project, or with Al on the Arlington Democratic Joint Campaign as co-chairs, or one of Al's campaigns, or seeing Matt and Alex grow into the men they are today, it has always been special working with friends and the Democratic family here in Arlington. Sharon, congratulations on your award, my dear friend. We love you.
Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. Well said, Margot, as always. Thank you for your leadership and everything you're doing now to help the cause. Wonderful.
Thanks, Barbara.
You're welcome. Next, we have Mary Hines, Honorable Mary Hines. Mary served on the school board. She also served on the Arlington County Board. In fact, we served together for several years. And I know Mary has a deep commitment to the health and well-being of our children. And what you may not know about Mary is she's very talented. And Mary, I think you're still doing the Two Blue Band. Are you?
Oh, I wish that were true, Barbara. It's so hard to do music during the pandemic.
I know, right now. Maybe I thought you were doing videos or taping on
It's
Zoom.
too hard,
Too hard. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we still love you, but go ahead.
Thank you. I do miss it. Well, I was trying to remember, Sharon, when we met, and I have no idea. But I know that the first time I knew about you was when you were working hard to get Little Beginnings up off the ground. And that was sort of my first introduction. Here's this very busy career woman with 2 children who cares about affordable childcare enough to figure out how to make it happen for a whole lot of people in her neighborhood. And so that was kind of the first time I knew about Sharon. Many of you know I wasn't an active Democrat prior to running for office. Always was a Democrat, but not active. So I didn't really get to know Sharon until after I was seated on the school board in '95. But in 1999, Barbara, you'll remember this, we started the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families together.
Yeah.
And Sharon was in that original board. Yeah. And in fact, many might not know this, but she was the second chair of the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families. And she served for 2 years during 2003 and 2004. And so I went back to sort of see what were they working on. And lo and behold, there's just a lot of things that we still do today that came to fruition during those 2 years when Sharon was the chair. So just, I'm going to run through a real quick list.
Okay.
The very first report card, community report card, was published in those years. And
that challenge that was
yeah, it was huge.
County board and the school board to agree. I remember
it was. But Barbara, you know, we can do it, right?
You did it. Yeah.
With great leadership at the citizen level. And so that report card persists today. It comes out every 2 years. The most recent one just came out. The Carlin School Elementary became a community school. It's the only one in Arlington where we embed human resources, county's human resources into the school so that it's a seamless experience for those families. The Teen Network Board was started. So elevating the voice of teenagers who weren't the straight A students, but were very interested in making their voices and what kids like them needed known. That's the beginning of the Teen Network Board. Figuring out community priorities through collaborative, processes. They would go to coffee shops. They would go to anybody's meeting and talk to them about, here are the things the report card showed. What do you think we should do? And then developing for the 2 boards a list of things to work on together that we would fund. We funded a lot of things that came out of the partnership. And finally, they started this Connect with Kids Champions program, where individuals in the community, whether they're scout leaders or work in a faith community or just, are someone that kids go to and trust, were able to be nominated by kids and then recognized publicly for their service. So all of those things still exist, more than a decade, almost a decade and a half after Sharon's service. I talked to a couple of members of the partnership about those years to get this information. And to a person, they said their memory of you, Sharon, is that you were always dashing in to lead this well-planned meeting with your BlackBerry in hand and a stack of papers that was this high, but that so many things got done and done well. And the last thing I would mention, and again, Barbara, I think you'll remember this, is this was a tough time for our Department of Human Services. We lost a lot of federal money because some rules were changed.
Yep.
And it could have been a terrible knockdown, drag out fight about how to walk back from this very enhanced set of services that the county and schools have been able to offer. Under Sharon's leadership, there was a very thoughtful process. There was no big blow up. We made the cuts together in a collaborative manner, and then we moved on, working to find other ways to deliver those services. So testimonies, Sharon, to your leadership, to your care for others, and for having great ideas that persist. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. That was lovely. Next on our speaker list is John Milliken, but I'm going to ask John if you would mind perhaps waiting a few minutes so I may let Congressman Don Beyer into the queue. He's got a hard stop. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Congressman Beyer, are you still with us?
I am. I have a restless dog in my lap, but I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you.
And you know, I always wanted to go to my own funeral so I could hear what everybody said about me before I was gone. And it's been wonderful to be here and hear all these tremendous things about Sharon, knowing that she has another 30 years ahead, because she and I were born the same year, and we have at least 30 years ahead.
That's right.
I think you were the year ahead of me, but that's okay.
I probably am a little bit older, but much older, actually. I look a lot older. But I was thinking, you know, when I met Sharon in the first my first Ira Leshner campaign. Back then, he was running every year. And it was Lucy Denny and Margot and John and Chris Milliken, and Callie Gass was deputy campaign manager. Ruth and Herschel were at everything. Karen Darner was putting up all of our interns, and Lucy Denny and Mary Margaret and Karen. It was, and all these years later, all these wonderful people are still together. You know, that's the best part about getting old, is you have friendships that go back decades. You can see how John Milliken actually turned out. You know, it's just very exciting. Okay. And all I can think of is when I first met Sharon, Arlington was electing Republicans all over the place. And now it is as sapphire blue as you can possibly get. You know, I remember when Pat Carroll was running John's campaign for Congress in 1986, but it was a very different Arlington then. Mm-hmm. And now I go up on Capitol Hill and I am the least popular member of Congress, not just because I live closest to the Capitol, but because I get to represent Arlington, and everyone else is so jealous. And that's what Sharon created with Al over all these years. So I think about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Eleanor Roosevelt and my grandmother, Clara Beyer, and Sharon Davis as those handful of remarkable women who have completely changed the way our lives are. You know, when I was running against some really wonderful people, I asked Karen what committee I should try to be on, and she said, there's only one committee, Energy and Commerce. Nothing else really makes a difference. So I got there and I talked to Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer and Jim Clyburn and said, I'd like to be on Energy and Commerce. And they said, too bad, you'll have to wait 20 or 25 years.
No, that's
because Frank Pallone and all these people from our thing. So I had to settle for Ways and Means. I'm slumming. But it's a wonderful thing. And I just want to say how grateful I am to have had Sharon Davis in my life and in all of our lives all these years. And I look forward to the next 30 years of your quiet, selfless, giving, generous, humble, but important leadership in the Arlington community.
Barbara.
Thank you,
If the Congressman has to leave, can I just rebut something or say something?
No, you can't rebut, but you may say thank you.
I do want to thank him, but also I just want to mention that Don Beyer showed up at Ira Lechner's campaign. I was, I think, ACDC chairman at the time. It was 1982, right? Anyway, he was wonderful. Tall, skinny, just kind of lanky and very, very smart. But we were always saying how they kept saying liberal labor lawyer, right? In the press. It was Ira Lechner, liberal. And we're like, can we please stop saying that? You know, anyway, poor Ira. But it was a good fight. But it led to having Don in our political family. And the other thing I just want to mention is today, this week, one of Don's bills was passed by the House. And it came out of the committee I work for, and that is not an easy thing to do because we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bills. But his bill, HR 4585, is the Campaign to Prevent Suicide Act, and it is the bill that would fund through HHS the media needed to basically publicize the lifeline for people who are have suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts. And it's going to be I think it's 989. We're all going to know it by the time his bill is enacted. But in any case, Don, as you may not know this, but when the report was filed from the committee on your bill, I finalized the report for you. And I filed it with the tally clerk in the House, and I gave it a little send off, but I knew it was going to go places, and it did pass the House by voice vote this week on the 21st of September. So congratulations, and it's now sadly pending in the Senate. We'll see what happens. But
well,
good job.
Elections are coming up.
Don always cares about the less fortunate and those with disabilities, those with mental health issues, people with Alzheimer's. He's the best. So thank you, Don.
We love you, Don. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move to John Milliken, the Honorable John Milliken. Thank you for joining us, our former county board member, our former Secretary of Transportation, former chair of the Arlington Democratic Committee. Welcome.
Well, we'll just wait a minute. This whole thing is obviously a fraud. And I am shocked that you'd even be associated with such a fabrication. The announcement that Sharon Davis is receiving the Senior Democrat Award is obviously fake news spread by the Arlington Democratic newsletter, which is nothing more than a captive mouthpiece of the local regime.
Because she's not a senior.
Sharon Davis cannot be a senior.
Yeah.
Not little Sharon from South Arlington.
Sharon, not
Not the Wakefield teenager. Not the young woman from Hollins College.
It's about
if
time
Sharon Davis
power.
is a senior, think how old that makes David Bell. Why, it seems only yesterday that Sharon Davis was one of the leaders of a group of young Democrats that intertwined their social and political activities over the course of a half a dozen years and elected many of their number to office. Yeah, I'm talking about the old geezers like Bell and Almond and Gondels and myself. And, that was a while ago. In fact, it was so long ago, as Don Beyer mentioned, that there were even Republicans elected to public office. In fact, they had a majority of the county board for a while. Still, it's kind of hard to believe Sharon Davis, the baby of the mid-70s YDs. Yeah, but then you think about how much Sharon Davis has accomplished. It becomes clear that some years have passed. As we've heard from many today, she's distinguished herself as a key staff person on one of the most important committees on Capitol Hill. She was the most important D on the committee, except maybe for somebody whose last name also began with D, named Dingle. And in the Democratic Party, you name it, she's done it all. Party chair, joint campaign chair, chair of this committee and that committee. If you were trying to figure out how to do a tough task, Sharon usually led your list. She even ran for office, winning. The very last two precincts came in, giving the other guy an undeserved win. Probably it was a fraudulent election. Maybe even it was the mail-in ballots. Who knows? All during this time, of course, she had a family, raised two great kids, was a partner to a politically active office holding spouse. The lesson of all of this is whatever the task, Sharon answers the call, whether it was from Capitol Hill or Richmond or the courthouse or from across the street. Sharon was somebody and is somebody you can count on. She's been a mentor to many, a friend to all, a community leader of which we should all be very proud. And I'm honored to join in a well-deserved salute to her and to call her my friend.
Thank you, John. That was lovely. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're now going to hear from a friend of a different generation, just as motivated to get Democrats elected as anybody on this call. Adam Parcamento, not only have you been a help to the Arlington Democrats, you have been a help to President Bill Clinton and candidate Hillary Clinton. Adam, are you on the call?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Thank you so much to everyone for the opportunity to speak briefly, and thank you to Karen Darner for inviting me. It's great to see everyone, including Alex, Matt, Andres, Aaron, and others. I went ahead, Barbara, because I know you're running a tight ship, and typed these remarks out. And
good for you.
They will be under 4 minutes.
Okay.
I've known Sharon since I was in preschool, Little Beginnings. It's come up a few times on this Zoom, but a place that she helped start. So I haven't just known Sharon for more years than how old I was when I met her, but I've literally known her my entire life. Sharon's an incredible human being and kind heart. For me, she's a person that I think of when I look back to childhood. And many of you, when you think back to childhood, there's not a year or a month that went by that someone does not occupy a good memory, good moment. Sharon, for me, has always been that person. I think back to their Sunnyside home and the restaurants that we went to. Pizza in Rehoboth, including a day in Rehoboth that Matt took a pair of handcuffs and locked me to a drawer. And Sharon was the only person that believed me when I went and told on him, as I walked down the sidewalk with a drawer attached to my hand with a pair of handcuffs. And she was a mom away from home and gave me the first opportunity on the Hill working for her and Mr. Dingle. I've had far more losses than wins in my life, but the wins have been good. And despite how crazy the idea I may have had at the time, and especially when Sharon didn't agree with it, she was always in my corner and my biggest and most zealous advocate. When I was a kid and it was halfway in between my home and our high school, her home was literally smack in the middle. And I think I spent more time at her house than anywhere else. It's because of Sharon that I continue to spend my entire career in politics. Sharon and her family were the reason I not only joined the Democratic Party, but why I became a young Democrat. I think I've got 1 year left being a young Democrat. Campaigns are a great way to meet people, but we also wind up living in these cycles that make life go by really fast. And I say that because I think this event made me realize I haven't picked up the phone or stopped by to see Sharon recently, and I'm incredibly grateful to everyone honoring Sharon tonight. She touched my life in more ways than she will ever understand, and I know she's done the same for many of you on here. I'll never be able to give back to Sharon what she's given to me, but I'll never stop trying. So thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you, Adam. That was lovely. Very well presented. Thank you. We will have, yes, we will have 2 additional speakers. And then we'll hear from our honoree. And then Sharon, I'm going to offer a toast, and that will be the run of the show. So 2 additional speakers. We'll hear from Sharon and I'll offer toast. At the very end, if people choose to go to the recording, there will be a number of pictures that will be perhaps like a collage. I'm not sure how they'll be presented, but you might want to peruse those pictures at your convenience. Okay, Senator Whipple, you have been the heart and soul of the Arlington for a very, very long time. I will go to Senator Whipple, then I'll go to you, Andres. Is that okay? Okay. Senator Whipple served on the school board. She served on the Arlington County Board. She served in the state Senate in a district that doesn't exactly look like my district, but she preceded me. She was the first woman to chair a caucus in the General Assembly, the Democratic caucus in the Senate. She has been one of our best strategists. She helped Democrats get elected in Arlington when we had battles on our hands, when we had to count every vote and take out our shoebox with all those index cards and have all the Democrats organized by precinct. So we're looking forward to hearing from you, Mary Margaret. Thank you for your work in promoting women, and actually the Women's Monument, which is now on our Capitol grounds. You were the chair of that committee, among many other accomplishments. I hope you're with us.
I am. Thank you, Barbara. And I know I've known Sharon for a long time. I'm not exactly sure how long, but I know it was before she and Al were married. So that is a while back. And not surprisingly, I met her through Democratic politics. But the year I'm going to focus on is 1984. Sharon was chairman of the Arlington Democratic Committee, and it was a presidential year. And that year we had this big presidential firehouse primary held at Kenmore School. That's the one people talked about, was covered by CNN. Yeah. And unexpectedly, a huge number of people showed up to vote. Many had trouble parking. They couldn't get into the building on time. We literally had to call the sheriff to enforce the locking of the doors because it was after the time. But in enduring memory of Sharon is her standing on the stage and managing this sometimes unruly gathering of Democrats. Finally, she gave up, not on managing the thing, but on wearing high heels. Off came her shoes, clearly helping her to get through the day. The Hart people won in the Arlington primary, but Walter Mondale ultimately was the presidential nominee. We were off on the campaign. Both Sharon and I were delegates to the Democratic convention in San Francisco, and what a good time we had. Most exciting first was the nomination of Geraldine Ferraro to be the candidate for vice president, the first woman to have that distinction. And I remember that we went to a women's event at the San Francisco Opera House the very first time that Mondale and Ferraro appeared together. Invitation to the Opera House event. It was sort of this overwhelming sense of sisterhood that day. And there I was with my sister Sharon, both of us cheering on Geraldine Ferraro.
Oh, yay.
The Virginia delegation was headed up by Congressman Owen Pickett. We called him Boss Pickett. And he would give us our instructions as delegates by doing a thumbs up or thumbs down to let us know how we were supposed to vote on all these various items. It was a spirited convention, as they usually are. And before long, Sharon and I were standing on chairs and screaming and generally carrying on like teenagers. Of course, Sharon was closer to being a teenager than I was, but anyway, we waved our Mondale fans and we put on all our buttons and stickers. This one says, Virginia is for Mondale. Our pictures were sent back to the local newspaper. I have here, Scott McCaffrey, Sharon and I with Chris Milliken on the front page of the Northern Virginia Sun, Sharon, Chris, and me. And not only that, the entire back page of the paper was filled with pictures of people at the Democratic convention, including Al up here in the upper right.
Mary Margaret, I don't even have that. You're gonna have to.
Well, I will give it to you. You should have it. Well, you should definitely have it. Actually, for all the excitement, it wasn't just a great year for Democrats. In fact, Mondale lost every state except Minnesota and the District of Columbia. But we had one last thrill when on the national news, back in the days when there was a national news channel, they announced, look on the map. Here's a little blue dot. Arlington, Virginia has gone for Mondale. So 1984 was a real bonding year for Sharon and me. I have admired her always. Sharon Davis, loyal Democrat, and forever friend.
Oh, that was perfect, as always. Thank you, Senator Whipple. Thank you, Mary Margaret. I should say, I feel very close to you. You've been a wonderful role model for so many of us, so thank you. I'm going to remind folks before we turn to Andres Tobar, who is a very dear friend of Sharon's. I want you all to go get a beverage of your choice, be it hot or cold or alcoholic or non-alcoholic. After Andres speaks, we'll give Sharon an opportunity to say a few words, but then we're going to raise a toast. So, Andres, you're next.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
I think you better mute it over there.
I'm muted. I turned mine.
Thank you. For the record, I'm still the executive director of the Shirlington Employment and Education Center, a retiree of the U.S. Department of Education, and a two-time unsuccessful candidate for the House of Delegates. So how did I rate to make it onto this program? The first reason is that Sharon was my campaign manager when I ran for the House of Delegates in the 49th District in 2003. Since she had the experience having been Karen Darner's successful campaign manager and me being a first-time candidate, I consistently followed her advice. The first thing she told me was that a candidate could only make two decisions. The first was the selection of the campaign manager, and the second was the selection of the colors for my campaign. She said that the rest of the decisions would be made by the campaign manager. During the campaign, Sharon taught me and our campaign team the importance of running a positive campaign. As you may recall, I lost by 71 votes. But during and after the primary, there was a strong mutual respect among the five of us candidates, in part because of the principles that Sharon brought to our campaign. In 2009, after my second unsuccessful attempt to run for another House delegate seat in the 45th district, where I came in fifth in a five-person race, my life path once again crossed Sharon's. Her son, Matt, had moved out of their home and they had an empty bedroom. I asked Sharon if I could rent it. She said that she would check with her family and later said that it would be okay to move in. Shortly thereafter, Sharon asked me to help with some cleanup in the house that I thought was really over the top. I told her, "Hey, Sharon, I don't think I should do this. I'm your tenant." She said, "No, when you came into this house, you became part of the family." I said, "Okay." 10 years later, after numerous rent increases and threats of rent boycotts, I'm still here. There are those who would say that housework is not Sharon's strong point. I'm reminded that when her son Matt came to my apartment and saw that half of my living room was filled with stacks of papers and boxes, he said, "Now I know why you and my mom get along so well." We will leave it at that. There are many reasons why I think that Sharon is worthy of receiving tonight's honor, but to me, the most important is her compassion. In Matthew 25, which is famous at my church, Our Lady Queen of Peace, it states that whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. I am proud to say that I can cite numerous occasions when Sharon put these words into practice. Most recently, when the coronavirus began spreading in the middle of March, she told her cleaning lady to stay safe at home and that she would continue getting paid. She did this for 5 months. On numerous occasions, when I have mentioned to her that a certain day laborer hadn't worked in weeks, she told me to bring him to the house and do yard work and was paid $150 to $200 for a few hours of work. I know that this may appear trivial, but for those suffering hard economic times, especially those with no safety net, this is a major lifeline. In closing, let me say that in the almost 20 years that I've known Sharon, we have never argued. I have made responses such as, "Okay, that seems reasonable," and an occasional Absolutely, Sharon. But I don't consider that caving. I consider that common sense. Congratulations, Sharon, and thank you for being who you are.
That was lovely. Thank you, Andres. So very touching. Sharon, we're going to give you an opportunity to respond, but then we're going to make a toast to you. I think Sharon's preparing. It's your turn.
It's already my turn. Oh my gosh.
It is. Yeah.
Wow, this has
Proud of you.
been an incredible couple hours for me. As Don was sort of intimating, is that it's kind of like dying and getting to come back and listen to your memorial service. I'm not sure I would really want to do that, but this is much nicer. And I think maybe we should do it for lots of people, because there are lots of people who have done so many things in this community and for their, not just one thing, but just their family, for everything. And I want to first start off by saying I miss everybody terribly. I miss I miss the events we could go to and see each other. I miss getting together with people, and it is what it is, I know, because of the pandemic, but I still am grateful that I have this opportunity to see so many people here. You guys cannot imagine who is on this, who these people are on this chat group that came here to be supportive of me. I mean, there are people here from my high school, from my work, past and present, my political life, other things, my cousins. Dear cousins, let me just tell you right now, they refer to our county as the People's Republic of Arlington, so just take that with a grain of salt. All my cousins that are in Texas and Oklahoma and Colorado who are joining us. I have been so incredibly blessed with the people who have been part of my life and worked with me and supported me or co-worked with me in the variety of projects that that I've done over the years. Candy Butler is super special to me. We intersect from not only Young Democrats, but because of Young Democrats, I got my first job on the Hill, and we just kind of traded back and forth ever since. She's unbelievable. Also, all of the Young Democrats that are now Senior Democrats, we used to call ourselves aunts and uncles when we got in our 30s. We don't do that anymore, but we are, I've just been super impressed at what all of you all have achieved. The ones of you who have, whether you've been elected officials or have gone on to do incredible things in your work or personal life, I have always been proud of you and awed by your work. For the younger people here, I also have on here today are a lot of the staffers, or some of the staffers that I work with now on the committee, and I have just enjoyed working with them immensely. They're in their 20s. I told them that there will be life after Trump. There will be life going forward in the next Congress, and you will find that this is you have to look at the long view of what's going on. The other thing is that my old colleagues, my colleagues that from the olden days, from the Team Dingle or whatever we were associated through, they have all been rocks to me as well. I love them. I'm not sure what they're doing, Barbara, about the video, the photographs.
I think after I give the toast, they will be shared. Paul Ruiz.
I'm sorry, say it again.
After I give the toast, the pictures will be shared on a screen so folks could hang on if they want to. We thought it was important to keep the time frame of the 2 hours.
You should watch these photos because I have scanned like 150 photos in, and I've still got many more, but I was trying to be.
I'm sure they will be fascinating.
No, but I have put a lot of you, as many of you as I could, into them. So please see them. The Gong Show is just ridiculous. Pictures. Just wait. I also want to just mention my family, besides my cousins who are online here that I love dearly. I really do. But my boys, Matt and Alex, you did a tremendous job, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of Matt's fiance, Chloe, who is just like, I think she's a Xerox of me. I love you, Chloe. And I mean, you know, you get born with the family you have. You pick your friends, but not your relatives, right? But in many ways, I never had any brothers, but I have brothers. And all of the folks, many of the folks that are here today. I mean, like Bob Rankin, Dave Bell, and Jim Allman, and all of these guys. They're and John. They're my family. And I will say that the women that I've gone through the years with, most of them involved in politics in one way or another, have been my support system. You cannot survive without a support system. I think there was a picture in the montage, if it was included, that I just called it my support system because it's like every person I've ever counted on to keep me sane. I have learned a few things in politics that I try to appreciate and follow in my life. And I would say we really always must, I mean, for one thing, over the decades, I did get a little discouraged that I thought maybe political parties were getting a bad rap, that they were considered a negative in terms of how we govern and how we elect our officials and so forth. And I understand why people could get that impression occasionally, but there's really very few ways of doing this otherwise. Sorry, President Washington, but you still need to pick a team. You need to pick a side. And in these days, it's pretty divided. But the fact of the matter is that it's the most efficient way to have an organized body that is of the people to make decisions about who are going to be our elected officials. I always felt that the Democratic Party should be, for our team, the filter, the one that really vets the candidates, who decides who would be the best person to put up for office. It's very rare, I think, that if you weaken the party and you weaken the ability to do that vetting, you're not going to probably get as high quality candidates as you might possibly get if the party is a strong party that works for the people and the public and represents the grassroots. Remember we had the grassroots fundraiser, Dave Bell? we sold little plants. Anyway, grassroots are important. But the fact is, among the things I take away from that I learned being in a party organization, one is that if you run for office and you lose, it sucks, but I was told by a very wise person, you gave us a choice. You gave us a choice in the primary, and thank you for running, and thank you for doing that. And don't feel bad. You feel bad because you've made people give you money and time and all the stuff, and you feel like you've let them down, disappointed. No, you have given them a choice. Another thing is always be truthful. The cover-up is always worse than the sin. And there's always ways that things can be worked out if you will be honest that you made a mistake. And most things that happen that are bad are usually mistakes. And you should just own up with it and be honest and always be true to what you believe. Don't try to be all things to all people, because it's not going to work and you'll never keep track of what you said to the last group of people. A couple other things I know I had noted down here in my word. I guess the other kinds of things are like, you're known by the company you keep. if you pick a team, stick with the team. I tend to be someone who is very committed to incumbents, unless there's some really horrific reason not to be, because I appreciate how hard it is to run for office and to be elected. And I hope the party is supportive of our elected officials as much as possible. I don't believe in term limits, by the way, just saying. The other thing is that it rains on friends and foes. So if you have a terrible election day, it's raining on the Republicans as well as the Democrats. You're just going to have to suck it up. But if you've put up poll signs the night before, you can always get dry cleaning bags and put them over the signs so that they don't get soaking wet and ruined in the rain. So there are options. This is kind of the, how do you do things without letting stuff, destroy your plans. And I think the other thing is just to be kind and I always could see, I'm not as big a strategy person as some of my fellow party people here are, but I kind of know what you'd have to do to have a good, to work a good election, to make sure you're reaching out as much to folks as possible and making sure that they know how to vote, that it's possible to vote. The kinds of things I worked on for many years with the help and support of many of my friends, because we did them together as a team, were things like rides to the polls, making sure that people were informed of registration deadlines and candidates that are running and all that good stuff. The thing about Arlington that I've observed over the decades is that, at least when I walked in the 1970s, we were walking on the shoulders of people who were legends. This was a Democratic Party that was fighting against segregationists, the bird machine. This was a time when people in the very past, in the 60s, for example, where people had to run for their seat on the Democratic Party to try to take over the party. It was very intense and very difficult. We came in and it was a different era, but we were coming in on that backs of their work, and that was a good thing, but there was still so much to be done. And I will say during our period too, we did things like getting some normalcy to ballots where the person who's a party endorsed or nominated candidate is in the same line as another one instead of having them all mixed up. When Bob Brink talked about going to Andrew Kites for doing the proofing, do you remember the time we were looking at the sample ballot? And this was back in the days when they had the voter machines that you had to press the little levers to vote. One of the levers that we had fallen off of the page. It was on the ground. And I said, there's nothing showing how you should vote in this race. And we're like, oh, shoot, the lever's on the floor. And we glued it back on. But it's just these kind of things. It could have been a disaster. Or the time I think they misspelled Zimmerman's name on something and everybody had to, there was 18,000 pieces of literature they had to fix. Otherwise it was vote for Zimmy or something. Anyway, politics can be fun and funny, but in all reality, it's important, and it is important to pick your team and work for them, and it makes a difference. Every vote counts. Every vote is important. I think civics, particularly after this last 4 years, needs to be more highlighted in terms of its importance for young people. I always tell my children, as you could tell today, that election day is the high holy day. These are the young people. These guys voted in caucuses, whatever it was they just knew that it was their civic responsibility, and I'm so proud of them. Very, very proud of them. So anyway, I'm going to conclude with that and just say that I love all of you, and I thank everyone who turned out and watched this event, and I'm just beyond honored to be the Senior Democrat this year for the Arlington.
Oh my gosh, Sharon, it was really our honor to have been able to work with you and enjoy your company and benefit from your leadership. I'm going to ask our participants to raise your glass, and we are going to make a toast to Sharon. Oh, you just
I can take a picture.
Okay.
Hang on.
Sharon,
Oh,
you ready?
look at this. No, wait. Me and technology.
This will be on the video. You won't have to take
I don't have to worry about this.
You do not have to worry about it.
That's really good.
You're just the guest of honor. You do not have to worry. This will be videoed.
Okay.
So we're all ready. Sharon, you have enriched our lives, improved our communities, and you've inspired us to a higher calling. And you have done this with grace and intelligence and humor. We are looking forward to our next journey together. Please remember, you are loved and admired, and it's been a pleasure to know you, and I can't wait. We all are looking forward to the next step in this journey.
Thank you.
Here. To
Cheers. Sharon.
Here.
To Sharon.
To Sharon, I have one last announcement. I want to
Be
give
sure to watch those pictures because they're quite the funny.
And they will be part of the video. So if you don't want to watch them now and you want to watch the video later, you'll be able to.
People have stuff to do.
Let me just recognize our current Arlington Democratic leadership.
And I didn't even say thank you to everyone who worked on this event for me. And also, happy belated birthday to Jill. I know it's your birthday, but I had to file like 38. No, never mind. I'm not going to talk about it. But happy birthday.
So our stellar leadership in the Democratic Committee and in charge of the joint campaign this year, Jill Casio. She's our Democratic chair and doing a great job leading us. Maggie Davis. She's our deputy chair. Also very dedicated and great. Corey Barton. He's in charge of fundraising. I'm the elected official this year. Rachel Feldman is doing our collateral, which is a printed material and signs and all that. And she is a very talented woman. Robert Julian, who works on the Hill for a congresswoman from Florida, is doing our communications. And then Alex Zenz is organizing our field work. And we are still orchestrating some field work, not in the traditional sense that we're door knocking, but there are other activities we are doing. So thank you, team. October 3rd, which is coming right up.
Oh.
The AYDs are having an event.
Yes. Just note that, we have officially started voting month. It's voting month. No, you don't have to wait till election day. It's voting month.
It's voting month. In-person absentee voting started September 18th. It will go through October 31st. If you want to know the dates and places, go to the registrar's website and it'll be laid out there. We are encouraging everybody to vote in-person absentee, if at all possible. If you want to vote with an absentee ballot, you have the option of dropping it off at a drop box or using the mail. October 13th is the cutoff date for registering to vote. If you're not a registered voter, you need to register by October 13th. So I will ask my team, is there anything that I neglected to say that I should have said?
I just wanted to show people an old voting machine.
All right, what?
The old voting machine.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Who's showing it? Oh yeah, there you go. Herschel, that is exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
We would do like a little picture with the little levers and then we'd have the lever pulled down for the candidate you're supposed to vote for.
Yeah.
It fell off the page. Bummer.
I don't know if, Paul, are the pictures coming up or should people just go to a video afterwards?
I think they're up on the screen.
Yeah, it looks like the collage is up there on the screen, Senator.
Oh, I wonder where.
Where is it?
Can you tell me how to access it?
You have to scroll over to.
While the senator is doing that, I just want to say thank you to her for doing a great job of emceeing. And I want to reiterate the thanks to the Joint Campaign for putting on a great season of events and activities. Thank you to the co-chairs of this event, Karen Darner, Susan Prokop, and Paul Ruiz for doing a terrific job. And thank you, most of all, to Sharon Davis Sharon, as a current party chair, I know that I stand on your shoulders. I am grateful for the party that you have helped to create, and that Maggie and I are determined to carry forward in the very fine tradition that you have, and it has been so clearly described here tonight. I remember the first time we really worked together was in 2017. I'm just going to share a quick anecdote, because what Andres said really came home for me. I think she remembers what I'm going to say. So we hosted the Honoring a Senior Democrat event at Sharon's house in 2017, and there was some issue with a window treatment that fell down shortly before the event, and I will never forget Christian Dorsey, current county board member, and future county board member Matt DeFerranti on chairs trying to fix this window treatment.
And you know what? It was put up wrong, and it's still wrong, but I don't care.
And that's what
Jill, let me just mention, the key of, I think, Arlington's success is that you all have, and all those in the past have always elected great people to be, you know, our candidates have been great elected officials, and as a result, we have great policies, and the people of Arlington approve. So you just cannot underestimate how important it is to have very good people elected to office in order to keep the reputation of the party in good shape.
Well, you've played a significant role in making that happen. Thank you very much. I know they were worried about getting attendees. We had more than 90 people on a Zoom call on Saturday night.
Impressed.
That is
That's
testament to all the
great.
work that you've done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, my friend and my dear cousins. I see you all, my little cousins. I miss you so much. You're not little, but
Sharon, stay safe.
I need a.
We love you.
Thank you. So where's the video of the movie, of the pictures?
I don't know.
Right now.
May the good Lord be with you down every road you roll. And may sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home.
I built, well, baby, they're tumbling down. And they didn't even put up a fight. They didn't even make the sound. I found a way to let you in, but I never really had a doubt. Standing in the light of your halo, I got my angel now. It's like I've been awakened.